Well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you here to the first annual meeting of the Alberta Energy Regulator. And before I go any further, I have to play flight attendant and indicate to you that the exits are on the east side of this room, and the muster station is on the north side of the building near the Eau Claire YMCA. So as we all know, the Alberta Energy Regulator was created last year, and in fact I was just remarking to Jim that a week before it was officially constituted, we were up in Fort McMurray and there were a whole bunch of things going on, some oil bubbling out of Primrose, and there was some flooding going on in Fort McMurray. So a lot of things have happened in the last 12 months. But of course, the regulator was created with a new governance model and with the intent of creating a one-stop regulatory shop for the energy sector, capturing everything from the initial application to including exploration, abandonment, reclamation, and remediation. In addition to retaining the function of the Energy Resources and Conservation Board, the AER took responsibility for the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act, the Water Act, sections of the Public Lands Act, and Part 8 of the Mines and Minerals Act. A tall order by anyone's standards, and created in the midst of massive upheaval in the industry. On behalf of the AER, thank you for being here, and let's get things underway. In addition to the Honourable Diana McQueen, there are a number of MLAs and government officials here today that I'd like to introduce to you. If the officials could stand as I announce their names, and we can hold applause to the end. Ken Hughes, MLA for Calgary West. Sandra Jansen, MLA Calgary Northwest. And Alana DeLong, MLA for Calgary Bow. Thank you for being here. I also would like to welcome Matthew Machelsi, the Assistant Deputy Minister for Environment, Sustainable and Resource Development, and Cynthia Farmer, the Assistant Deputy Minister for Alberta Energy and ESRD Policy Management. Now, when the AER was created and Gerry Protti named as its chair, there were many raised eyebrows in the community. The most often comment that was heard was that the fox had been put in charge of the hen house. He was too much of an industry insider to possibly be an effective chair. But then the board was put together, and after that, Jim Ellis was named to lead the organization. Who better but a retired Army colonel to handle the logistics and make the tough decisions required to ensure the AER that was envisioned in the legislation could come to be? And 1 year later, it's safe to say most of the critics have been silenced. In fact, I heard an interesting story yesterday that I thought I'd share with you. There's an oil patch CEO who's ending his term on Monday, and he is in the midst of cleaning out his office. And one of the things he's unearthed since sitting in this one office for the last 10 years is his ERCB manual. And this individual worked overseas with Shell for several years, and he says it's worn, stained, sweated over, dog-eared, and very well used. He said it was his Bible, his reference when determining best practices in places like Egypt, Syria, and Chad. And whenever he got his hands on a new copy, he would hand it out to his colleagues overseas. Back then, he said to me, the ERCB was viewed around the world as one of the best regulators. Suffice to say, the new AER is building on the legacy of its predecessor organizations and regulatory bodies, and its goal to be a best-in-class energy regulator is within reach. Now, if we could only get our fellow Canadians and the folks south of the border to pay attention. Let me give you a brief overview of what will happen this morning. We have people tuning in by webcast, and then we're going to hear from Minister McQueen, Gerry Protti, and Jim Ellis. Following Jim's remarks, we will show a 5-minute video and then adjourn for the reception. Jim and Gerry will be available to the media following their formal remarks and the formal presentation. It's my pleasure to introduce the Honourable Diana McQueen. Minister McQueen was elected to her second term as an MLA in April of 2012 and sworn in as Energy Minister last December. She's only the second woman to hold the post of Energy Minister, and prior to that was Minister of Environment and Sustainable Resource Development. Under her leadership in the ESRD portfolio, the Minister implemented the province's first regional plan under the land use framework, partnered with the federal government to begin implementation of a new environmental monitoring program in the oil sands, and spearheaded the creation of a one-stop regulator, the reason we're here today, the establishment of the Alberta Energy Regulator. There's little doubt her experience with the environment portfolio is proving valuable in her current role as Energy Minister, giving her credibility when she talks about Alberta developing its oil and natural gas resources in a sustainable, responsible manner. Please join me in welcoming the Honourable Diana McQueen.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah. It's always such a pleasure. You always do such an outstanding job, and we're always so proud to have you here with us in the Energy, any of the sessions that we have. So thank you. Let's give Deborah a round of applause. She's outstanding. I want to say good morning first, and I know they were introduced, but I do want to thank Sandra Jansen is here, and Ken Hughes for being here as well this morning, and especially my good friend Ken Hughes, because we had a lot of work together as we together created the Alberta Energy Regulator. But I want to say what a great day today is. I have to say it's so important when I think back about the time when I was working as the Parliamentary Secretary for Energy, and I was with Ron Leipert at the time, and we looked at the competitive nature of the oil and gas, what we needed to do on the competitive side, worked with industry with regards to how could we become more efficient and effective in the regulatory process, but with the overlying principle always was that no environmental outcomes would be reduced. In fact, we could enhance environmental outcomes and health and safety, but we could become more efficient and effective. And that was the overlying principle when Ron asked me to take on this file. And then I had the opportunity to work with someone who I've admired for years, but so outstanding in the industry, and that was my fellow panel member here this morning, Gerry Protti. And when we talked about this, moving to the regulatory process and looking at a single one-window approach, Gerry warned me at the time very brilliantly that this had been tried a couple times before, and it was going to be a difficult task. And I have to say, it was a difficult task, but it was a task that I'm so proud that collectively so many of us were able to achieve. And I think the difference that was here this time versus what had been done in the past, it really was about a team effort across ministries. When we looked at the 10 different cross ministries that we worked with, making sure that we were in collaboration as government, that it wasn't just energy doing it, it was about environment and energy doing it together. And I'm so glad that Matt is here and Cynthia as well, because it really was about that cross ministry, and that when we talk about energy and we talk about energy development, we talk about the environment, and it is two sides of the same coin. And when we looked at the regulator and how we could become one single regulator, that would be an outstanding principle for us as well. And so I'm so glad where we've come today. And I always have a visual from Gerry when we spent over 2 years in consultation doing this project, visited so many communities across the province, and 9 different First Nation communities, about 19 communities outside of that. But we were in one of our meetings of several that we had over the 2 years, and Gerry, I said, what is the current regulatory process for different types of developments? And he brought out this long sheet of paper, and it was in a room like this. It was over at McDougall, and it was, this is the current regulatory process, and this is how it is, and how, if you're going to do some of the bigger projects, how complicated it is. And I looked at that thinking, it can't be this complicated. We can still achieve all the environmental outcomes, making sure that everyone has a chance for their voice, but be able to do it more efficient and effective. So I thank everybody. I see we've got Elsie is here as well with the Freeholders Association. Great to see you here, Elsie. What was important for us is that everyone had a voice when we created this new regulator, and we looked at it from the landowners to the freeholders, to the environmental groups, to all stakeholders, including industry, including First Nations, all the environmental groups, everybody having input into this process, and everybody agreed that the system was too complicated. How did we make it easier for everyone? And I have to say that I'm so very proud of where we've come to. And when I look at when Ken and I were working together on this and doing the regulations and the legislation on this, we both chatted and we said we need to make sure we have the right people. And I have to commend Ken Hughes on this. When we looked at the governance structure and really changing the governance structure, which is something that Ken does very well, and then having hearing commissioners to be able to listen and to do the hearing, I'm so proud of the the people that are here today with our hearing commissioners. You're doing an outstanding job, and I think people know that this is a different type of regulator. This is a world-class regulator. We're seeing that recognized in different places, but I want to commend Ken for the work that Ken, you did leading this file through the legislation process. And then when we look at the people that we've chosen to lead this, and I look at Gerry and what an outstanding, Gerry, you have been in your leadership. And then to have somebody with Jim's credentials, Jim, you know, we said this is not going to be easy. The easy part was actually done doing the legislation. Bringing this all together, we've got to have such an outstanding leader, and none of us in government wanted to lose Jim Ellis. We really, truly miss him in government, but there isn't a better person that could be leading alongside Gerry than Jim Ellis. And I got to tell you, Jim, we've had an outstanding year. You've really changed the way we do the regulatory process in this province. And I want to thank you personally from behalf of Premier Hancock and all of us for the outstanding job that you're doing. It is a different type of regulator. It is very open to hearing all aspects, and I thank you, and I'd like us all to show appreciation to Gerry and Jim for the work they're doing. But we continue to work to evolve this, and I think an example of how effective it is over one short period of time, and I think we were into this for a week, and we had the floods that happened last year, and every part of this ministry and energy, our regulator, our Ministry of Environment, SRD, and Matt, I have to commend you and your team, Chelsea. You guys were amazing through the floods, and I think a year later, all that has happened in this year, all of that working with the floods that you have done and all of the ministries in this province have done, but making sure that we're still standing up a regulator that's strong. And so I'm very, very proud of that work as well. And I have to mention Cynthia, because one of the things we talked about is making sure that there would be a place that as we develop policies for the regulator to follow and to work through, that would be the role of government. And we wanted to create the Policy Management Office so we could have a place in this province that would collectively, as issues arose, that we could talk from all stakeholders in those big policy discussions. And Cynthia, you're doing an outstanding job leading that out for us, and so I want to thank you for that as well. And just in closing, I want to say that this is the first anniversary, but I can tell you, if you look what's happening in the territories with devolution, and they wanting our regulator to come and to help them with that, that says a lot for how we brought this regulator together. That says a lot for Gerry and for Jim and for our hearing commissioners and all of the board members. So congratulations today. This is about all of the different ministries in the province that work together. This is about all of you, our stakeholders, that work together, because the success that we share is a shared success. So thank you very much for having us here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister McQueen. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to the Chair of the Alberta Energy Regulator, Gerry Protti. Gerry, as you know, has had a storied career in the energy sector, one that includes experience in the public service under Premier Peter Lougheed as Executive Director of the predecessor of the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, which was called IPAC, the Independent Petroleum Association of Canada, and the first Chair of CAP's board. Gerry's private sector energy experience includes 15 years at Encana and its predecessor company, Pan-Canadian Energy. In addition to serving as a director on several boards of directors and finding time to be an extra at a Calgary Opera production, Gerry was Vice Chair of EPIC, the Energy Policy Institute of Canada, which has been a strong voice advocating for a national energy strategy. And I understand from Minister McQueen, from speaking to her last week, that initiative is alive and well, and we will be hearing more about it as the year unfolds. When his appointment was announced, then Energy Minister Ken Hughes told me the following: Gerry understands the role of the public interest, the economic fundamentals of the industry, the importance of having a social license to operate, and the environmental considerations that are important to Albertans. And having both private and public sector experience, he also knows how to negotiate the tripwires on both sides. Please welcome Gerry Protti.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah, and good morning, Minister and MLAs, and ladies and gentlemen, and those on the webcast. But before I go any further, I have to thank Deborah. I never really thanked you for the fox in the hen house. I think it was you in your your opinion or your article that actually coined that term. I don't think I've ever thanked you for that. Thank you all for being here this morning to celebrate our first year as the Alberta Energy Regulator. The AER launched last June 17th, and with a considerable amount of work supporting that launch. The Minister detailed the several rounds of consultation that led to the Enhancing Assurance Report and ultimately to the supporting legislative framework and the Responsible Energy Development Act. And after that act was proclaimed, there was some further rounds of consultation with Albertans. And I think that was really significant. And Minister, I know how much you took the lead in terms of that process, and I think you did a wonderful job, and it really set the stage for us to move forward. So thank you for that. Minister did mention that the floods in Calgary and southern Alberta this time last year, and actually we had planned to have an official launch event to kick off the AER shortly after June 17th, but obviously that was cancelled because of the floods. We did open regional centres elsewhere in the province through the course of the summer, but this is actually really the first occasion when we've been able to get people gathered together here in Calgary, so I really appreciate this opportunity. That also allows me to maybe take up a little bit of the history from after the Responsible Energy Development Act was promulgated in December of 2012. Lots of consultations, meetings with Albertans. But in addition, there were many dedicated individuals in the ERCB and in the Government of Alberta who worked very hard to start the transition process. And time doesn't allow me to name all of them, but there's really significant teams, and the people in those organizations know who they were. And this couldn't have been launched without their very capable work. I actually first became aware of all this background work and detail in April of 2013, April 2nd to be precise, when I had my first day on the job, and I received an extensive briefing on the magnitude of the task before us. Namely, we were required to have in short order recommendations to the Minister of Energy of the day, Ken Hughes, and to Cabinet regarding a CEO, directors to fill out the governance board, and hearing commissioners. After Cabinet's review and approval, ordering council appointments, all of these individuals were expected to be in place, the whole process completed by mid-June. I said to the Minister at the time, Ken said, 2 months? He says, yeah, that's according to my calculation too, about 2 months. And I just kind of shook my head, and once we got rolling, once we went through the interviews, with all that background work that had been done, it all started to come together, and I think it was a real accomplishment that to get it done in that time frame. But at that time, if that wasn't enough, that first briefing also informed me that a new logo for the regulator had to be selected quickly if we were going to be able to launch in June. I recall someone saying tomorrow would not be too soon to make a decision on the new logo. All that work had to be done to be prepared to go. So the importance of the logo is the reason for my first slide. And it's the logo that we selected, to me, was, for all of us, a very strong guide to what we were trying to do with this new regulator. Luckily, some of that intense preparation and consultation that I mentioned earlier really made the path for logo selection much easier. I was made aware of the research that was conducted to build the AER logo and brand. Extensive focus testing was conducted with a wide range of Albertans, as well as staff from the RCB and the Environment Sustainable Resources Development Department. Not just about logo options, but about what Albertans expect from their new energy regulator. Overall, Albertans wanted a regulator that is a protector of Albertans' interests, enforcing the rules, efficient, honest, and straightforward. The AER is expected to exert authority as a decisive regulator, able to police industry and ensure that rules and regulations are being met. The Alberta Energy Regulator has a critical responsibility on behalf of all Albertans to manage the efficient and responsible development of the vast hydrocarbon resources upon which our province is built. Our logo is our representation of that solemn commitment to all Albertans. Inspired by the Shield of Alberta as seen on the flag, the Alberta Energy Regulator logo symbolizes the bountiful energy resources that have provided our province with tremendous economic growth and opportunity, as represented by the black anchor at the bottom of the graphic. Sitting atop those hydrocarbon resources is the beauty and abundance that the Alberta Energy Regulator is committed to respecting and protecting. Our bountiful land, sparkling waters, rich forests, extensive biodiversity, and spectacular mountains, all beneath our Alberta blue skies. This Alberta Energy Regulator shield demonstrates our number one priority, ensuring that the development of our valuable hydrocarbon resources continues to provide economic opportunity while protecting what matters most for generations of Albertans. That sense from the focus testing and the rounds of consultation with Albertans that there were improvements that could be made in the way that oil and gas and coal development could be regulated in this province was a theme that I observed through the interview process with many of the CEO, Director, and Hearing Commissioner candidates. The end result, I believe, were appointments of individuals that have served in the first year of the regulator and you with expertise and commitment. In a few moments, I'll introduce some of these individuals to you. First, however, I would be remiss if I didn't outline a key message in presentations we've delivered during our first year, which is that the AER, and it's been mentioned before, Deborah mentioned it, the AER's governance structure separates the corporate, operational, and governance responsibilities from the adjudicative functions of the regulator. This was a fundamental change from the former ERCB model where these functions were combined. Through this revised model, we seek to realize our full potential as the single regulator of Alberta's energy resource development, as well as gain the confidence of our many stakeholders. As chair, I lead our board of directors. It's important to note that we are not involved in the AER's day-to-day operations or decisions. However, the directors set the general direction of the regulator's business affairs, including approval of the strategy and the budget. We're also charged with approving regulatory change and setting performance expectations for the AER and its President and Chief Executive Officer. In this way, the AER's board operates as a corporate-style board. Our directors are diverse, but their common denominator is strong governance experience. We have 4 directors with us today, and as I introduce them, I'll ask them to briefly stand so that you can corner them during the reception. Cam Bailey from Calgary, David Chalik from Calgary and other areas of southern Alberta, Fred Estlund, Grand Prairie, and Andy Nigel from Athabasca. Three directors could not be with us today, and that's Elizabeth Dowdswell from Toronto, Peter Flynn from Edmonton, and Sheila O'Brien from Calgary. The AER has 11 full and part-time hearing commissioners who are responsible for conducting all hearings into energy applications and regulatory appeals. Reporting to a chief hearing commissioner, they are independent adjudicators, operating free of political interference. Their decisions may only be reviewed by the Court of Appeal of Alberta. The AER's adjudicative function was led in its critical first year by Brad McManus as Chief Hearing Commissioner. Brad, with his great experience and capability, provided the necessary continuity between the ERCB and the new regulator. The new Chief Hearing Commissioner is Alex Bolton, who was recently appointed by the province to a 4-year term. Alex brings his background as a geologist and his extensive and varied experience to this critical role for the regulator. We have some of the other hearing commissioners with us this morning, and I'd like to again quickly introduce them and ask them to stand when their names mentioned. Alex Bolton, Chief Hearing Commissioner from Canmore. Cecilia Lowe, Hearing Commissioner, Calgary. Christine Mackin from Calgary. Barbara McNeil from Banff. Brad McManus from Calgary. And Rob McManus, also from Calgary. Now, the final aspect of this chart are the operational and corporate activities of the regulator, and they're led by Jim Ellis as our President and CEO. Jim needs no introduction to this group, and he has much to share with you in a few moments when he provides his presentation. I'd like to next give you a snapshot of board accomplishments in the past year. As the board of directors of a newly created regulator with a large mandate to fulfill, we certainly didn't have the luxury of easing into our roles. We knew there was much work to do and little time to do it. Between June 2013 and May 2014, the board met 11 times and addressed a number of administrative details during this time, developing a conflict of interest and whistleblower policies in terms of reference, approving a strategic plan and budget, including introducing rules to adjust annual industry levies. Jim is going to address this very important strategic plan in some detail in his remarks. Some of these 11 board meetings were held in different locations across Alberta, and we use these occasions to meet with stakeholders and visit operating sites to learn more about the AER's regulatory responsibilities. We have plans to do much more of this as we go forward. In addition to this work, the board is responsible for 4 committees. The decisions and recommendations coming from these committees serve to advise the entire board in areas of their authority. The Audit and Finance Committee in the last year focused on banking and credit facilities, risk management, and in addition to an ongoing review of financial statements and upgrades to financial IT systems. The Governance Committee reviewed and modified the AER's bylaws in terms of reference for each committee, reviewed performance reporting by other regulatory bodies to recommend the form of an annual report, and developed a board performance and evaluation tool. The Human Resources, Health and Safety Committee chose to focus on employee turnover, safety statistics, the effectiveness of recruitment, the general approach to AER compensation and benefits, and compensation for senior management. The Regulatory Review Committee was busy reviewing recommendations for changes to AER regulated instruments prior to submission to the board and thereafter the Department of Energy. The committee reviews and approves changes to AER procedures and the AER's extensive guidance documentation. The Government of Alberta approved a major policy recommendation on the regulation of odours and emissions from sites. This was based on the AER's recommendation and played a key role in our action with the Peace River area. Overall, the board and its committees ensure the AER's work remains true to its mandate of ensuring the safe, efficient, orderly, and environmentally responsible development of hydrocarbon resources over their entire life cycle while providing economic benefits for Albertans. I know I can speak on behalf of all my colleagues on the board to say that we're proud to serve all Albertans in our capacity as board directors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerry. And as just following on the Minister of Labour and Status of Women report that was released this morning about board representation of women on boards, I'm gratified that there are 2 women on your board, although she's looking for a 30% threshold, not 25, so still have some work to do. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Jim Ellis. Before joining the public service in 2006 as Executive Director of the Alberta Environment Support and Emergency Response Team, Jim had served for 23 years in the Canadian Army, retiring as a colonel in 2006. As a former Deputy Minister of Energy, Jim says he saw the importance of having the regulator involved in the making of policy that will affect industry. And while in that post, Jim worked to develop the market diversification strategy for the province and was the point man on the development of a Canadian energy strategy. And while he was Deputy Minister of Environment between 2008 and 2011, Jim worked on developing environmental frameworks in the oil sands region, climate change initiatives, and improving the regulatory system. When he took on the job last year, he said his goal was to create a world-class regulator and then tell everyone about it. To hear how far along he is in achieving those goals, please welcome Jim Ellis.
Thanks, Brenda, and thanks to all of you for joining us today on this very important day in the life of the new Alberta Energy Regulator. This has been an interesting year, and one which saw the implementation of a major part of the regulatory enhancement project, the development of the single regulator. As was mentioned, I'm quite proud of my background as a combat officer, and I'm drawn to strong leadership. I always have been, and I continue to be. And I will tell you that as a young deputy minister in environment, I watched then MLA Diana McQueen, and then as the Minister of Energy and Water, the Minister of ESRD, and now the Minister of Energy, actually lead the development and the implementation of this project. I always approached things in the past at the best of times on full frontal approach, all guns up, take no prisoners. I watched Minister McQueen do that in certain situations, but also maneuver around and get to those points with a smile and a nod, but you always knew that you'd better be along with her or you're going to be left behind. So I want to congratulate you and thank you, Minister, for your support. I also had the great privilege of working for then Minister Ken Hughes, who's with us today, an outstanding minister, and I've worked, as I said, for been fortunate to work for many ministers. Minister Hughes of the day, Ken Hughes now, and I worked on the legislation. This was no easy feat to pass this through the House, and I want to congratulate you, Ken, for your stellar leadership and your drive to move this through. As was stated, this was the third time it was tried in this province, and the third time is the charm, clearly, because we got it through and we got it passed. I just found out, actually, since I've moved to Calgary, Ken is my MLA. I've been phoning his office constantly, asking him what the heck's going on with this energy regulator, who's in charge of this thing, and he's not returning my calls. Before I continue, I do want to take the opportunity to recognize members of the AER executive team, the executive leadership team. I'm the figurehead. I don't do a lot of work. These folks run the organization on a day-to-day manner. Cal Hill, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Regulatory. Come on, stand up, Cal. Thanks. Kirk Bailey, EVP of Operations. Rick Brown, EVP of Corporate Services. It's around somewhere. Thanks, Rick. Jennifer Stieber, EVP of Stakeholder and Government Relations. I'm not sure. Jennifer is probably tied up literally by stakeholders right now. Patricia Johnston, EVP of Legal and General Counsel. And Kim Blanchette, VP of the Office of Public Affairs. All of these folks have worked exceptionally hard over the past year to get us to where we are today. It's been no easy feat. Over the last year, we have delivered on probably the largest and most complex energy regulatory change in the history of this province. It hasn't been easy, but I can assure you it's been exciting, and it is already proving to be the right thing to do. It's no secret to anyone in this room that Alberta's energy resources, including bitumen, crude oil, natural gas liquids, and coal, rank among the world's largest. In our annual reserves report, which was released this May, we reported that Alberta is experiencing growing production and stable resources. Last year, we saw an 8% increase over the 2012 period in bitumen production, led by in situ projects. We anticipate this trend to continue, and we forecast Alberta's annual bitumen production will rise to 4.1 million barrels per day by 2023. 2013 also saw crude oil production increase by 5%, prompted mainly by multi-stage hydraulic fracturing and tight oil formations. With changes to the regulatory process, coupled with support to innovation and technology improvements, this trend is anticipated to continue. Conventional natural gas production was 3.4 TCF, and coal production increased by 3% from 2012 figures. These numbers are impressive. The AER will play a pivotal role in this energy resource development opportunity, as all energy-related activities are now handled by this single regulator. Our vision is to be recognized as a best-in-class regulator, ensuring the safe, environmentally responsible development of energy resources for the benefit of all Albertans. This development must be safe, efficient, orderly, and environmentally responsible. This slide depicts the activities that the AER regulates currently in Alberta. This list is impressive and growing and represents some of the largest numbers of energy development activities of any of the leading energy producers in the world. Supporting the AER's core work are close to 1,200 technical staff, scientists, inspectors, investigators, stakeholder engagement specialists, lawyers, you need a lot of lawyers, regulatory experts, IT and financial experts, and other employees working from 15 locations stretching from Medicine Hat in the south to High Level in the north. And there's 1 or 2 Army folks in there as well. I'm very proud of the performance of these outstanding regulators. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be where we are today. The transition. Creating the AER was a complex undertaking requiring careful and deliberate planning and implementation. I do want to recognize the efforts of Ernst & Young, specifically Lance Mortlock and his team. You have to realize we're expert regulators. We are not experts in mergers or change management. The team that Lance Mortlock brought together with our folks in the AER worked exceptionally well with us, and we couldn't have done the merger in the time that we were given and delivered on what we needed to do without their help. So for me personally, Lance, thanks very much. As was mentioned, this merger was carried out over 3 phases between June 17th, 2013 and March 29th, 2014. The first phase saw the moving of the ERCB over to the AER in June 2013. As Gerry noted, this is a new governance structure. This wasn't the ERCB on steroids. We took the best of the ERCB, close to 900 employees. We moved them into a new governance structure, an organization that does things differently, and they have stepped up to the challenge. This was followed by bringing in expertise from ESRD to handle public lands and geophysical jurisdiction in late November 2013. This phase was launched in the middle of the winter drilling program. This was a significant test of the AER and resulted in immediate changes to the process, including significant management oversight. This was a true test under fire for this organization. I have been under fire physically in various areas of the world, and I can remember getting situational reports from the folks that were running the winter drilling program when we took it over on the 1st of December, and I can tell you there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't missing Afghanistan or the hills of Bosnia. At least you can fire back there. Finally, APIA and the Water Act came into the AER at the end of March 2014. This included bringing in people from the GOA and elsewhere that have the proven requisite skills to manage these responsibilities for the AER. With the transition complete, the AER now regulates the full life cycle of energy development for this province, from application and exploration to construction and development to abandonment, reclamation, and remediation, and that all-important reclamation certificate that signals that that activity has closed off. The regulatory aspects of resource development are part of a broader government initiative called the Integrated Resource Management System, established to properly manage development on the landscape. The component parts of this system include the Alberta Energy Regulator, the GOA that sets the energy policies, energy and environment policies, the Alberta Environmental Monitoring, Evaluating and Reporting Agency that provides the open data and the knowledge into the system, the Aboriginal Consultation Office that manages First Nations consultation on behalf of the GOA, and finally, the critical role of the Policy Management Office, which is the key interface between government departments who are doing policy and between the GOA and the regulator to assure that we implement the policy as set out by government. During the first year, we also delivered on a number of initiatives outside the merger and our day-to-day core work. The incident reporting tool improved transparency to stakeholders by posting energy-related incidents in a very timely manner. Very few regulators, if any, are doing this now. We also created the Stakeholder and Government Relations Division. This was to improve AER's outreach and engagement with stakeholders as we recognize how strategically important this truly is. For transparency, we now publish all notices of applications and all decisions. This is new. We are increasing our focus on enforcement with new approaches to compliance, including additional authorities and enforcement tools, and we use many of these over the past year. We strengthened our relations at home and abroad by signing MOUs with the Northwest Territories, the BC Oil and Gas Commission, and as of Monday, the Mexico's National Hydrocarbon Commission. This is an effort to share best practices, learn from one another as regulators, and, where possible, develop common regulatory processes that will result in benefits for Alberta companies working in other jurisdictions. While we worked together through the merger, we carried on with the business of dealing with approximately 35,000 applications, now anticipated to be over 60,000 applications this coming year. We delivered on all of those commitments mentioned in the previous slide, and we also developed our strategic plan. This strategy is a forward-looking, broad-based plan designed to move the AER and the regulatory process significantly forward. The strategy is the cornerstone of our work and is the centerpiece of our newly released annual report. There are 4 main areas of work leading to the accomplishment of our strategic goal and our pursuit of best-in-class by being protective, effective, efficient, and credible. A few words on protective. Albertans live, work, and play in proximity to energy development. Our first priority is to protect public safety and the environment. While we know that any industrial activity comes with risks, these risks can be mitigated through strong regulatory processes. Over the next 3 years, we will work on projects that deliver measurable results in this area. These will include piloting the new play-based regulatory process, addressing air emissions, flaring and venting, and in implementing the government's tailings management framework. All regulators strive to be effective. The AER regulates development in a way that reduces risk and ensures the greatest economic value for Albertans. It's about managing the development, but also processing the knowledge and understanding of our vast resource base, where they are, how much we have, and how they can be developed to maximize benefit and minimize impact. We will complete focus projects in this area that will include reduce risk to public safety and environment, limit financial risk to Albertans, effectively manage resource conservation, and improve industry performance. One of the areas that many regulators don't deal with is efficiencies. We will move to a risk-based approach to regulation. This will allow us to focus our regulators on the high-risk activities. By doing this, we will free up critical AER resources, both money and skilled people. It will also result in reduced cost, greater clarity, and a clearer process that will benefit landowners, industry, and the public. At the same time, regular and open reporting of our activities and results will demonstrate our performance. This regulatory overhaul will not be easy. We have 3 former regulators that have been developing regulations, often on their own and in isolation, for many decades. The regulatory simplification work, coupled with the regulatory continuous improvement initiatives, will provide certainty in the system, simplicity for all stakeholders where possible, and will maintain the provincial environmental outcomes that we're setting. Our recent announcement under Directive 80, this is well logging, is an example of identifying complex requirements that were no longer useful to the regulator or industry. The new Directive 80 found solutions that still allow us to deliver what was required, but in a much more logical manner, saving time and money for all. Finally, for the first time in Alberta, and in fact a first for most jurisdictions around the world, the AER will release a set of timelines for our decision-making processes. This is a significant announcement that will add considerable certainty to the regulatory process. This will be extremely advantageous for investment decisions in this province and will continue to ensure we are a very competitive market. It will also add certainty to stakeholders who have struggled in the past, along with industry, to understand the regulatory system and its timelines. This will be done in phases, with the Public Lands Act application timelines ready now. All other application types will be done and announced by the end of Q4. However, I will warn you that for this to be successful, the regulator will need to continue to be staffed by expert technical personnel. Secondly, applications submitted by industry must be of a high standard. If these applications go back for further clarifications, the clock will stop and will start again once the regulator has received the requisite information required to make the decision. Finally, it is extremely important to note that these steps will not lower any of the environmental performance or environmental outcomes that we're setting. In order for all three of these areas of the strategy to be accomplished, we will need to be viewed as a trusted, credible regulator. We can be the most protective, effective, and efficient regulator in the world, but if we are not trusted, none of this will matter. As we all know, we have a world-class resource, and we are under global scrutiny as we develop it. There needs to be a trusted, credible organization overseeing this significant opportunity. That role will be served by this regulator. To earn that credibility, we know we must report on our results publicly, form better relationships with our stakeholders, and work towards a common definition of what is meant by best in class. In order to confirm what characteristics a best-in-class regulator must possess, we will partner with national and international experts this fall to help us build that model. We will then measure ourselves against these criteria and let the third-party experts validate us and report on our progress to becoming best-in-class. Each of these four areas of work in the strategy have performance measures and targets to help the AER define success. This is a new approach, but one that is expected by our partners and our stakeholders and our staff within the AER. In closing, this past year has been challenging, exciting, stimulating, often frustrating, but overall an outstanding opportunity to build something that is truly historic for this province. This coming year is shaping up to be an exciting and challenging one as well. Thanks for coming along on this ride with us. We need all of you to help. And again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Forgot your water. We're going to see a webcast. We're going to see a video now about the regulator. It's going to run for about 5 minutes, and we'll just wrap up.
We are the Alberta Energy Regulator, Alberta's single energy regulator for oil, oil sands, natural gas, and coal development. Our mandate is to ensure the safe, efficient, orderly, and environmentally responsible development of our energy resources, while providing economic benefits for all Albertans. In our first year, we've made significant progress in fulfilling our mandate. We've established a single regulator for Alberta while continuing to regulate the development of the world's third largest energy resource. Our work is important, and we must continue to evolve to meet the expectations of Albertans. Our vision is clear. The Alberta Energy Regulator is recognized as best in class, ensuring the safe, environmentally responsible development of energy resources for the benefit of all Albertans. To do this, we need a strategy to help us do more than fulfill our mandate and reach our vision. We need to deliver tangible, measurable results. Our strategic plan is our roadmap to get us there. It reflects our mandate and our pursuit of being best in class by being protective, effective, efficient, and credible. At the Alberta Energy Regulator, we know that regulating a world-class energy resource is a huge responsibility, which is why the first priority in our plan is to be protective. We will protect public safety and the environment through strong regulations and a host of enforcement tools. We regulate energy development in a way that reduces potential risks and ensures that Albertans receive the greatest economic benefit possible. To do this, we must be effective and focus on risk-based regulation. This means the higher the risk, the stronger the requirements. Our goal is to achieve excellence and efficiency without compromising effectiveness. To us, efficiency is more than saving money. It's about reducing duplication, improving our processes, and delivering great service. We know being best in class means more than providing best-in-class regulation. It means that Albertans are confident in our ability to regulate energy development in our province. We also know we must do more than simply regulate well. We must share the results of our work, discuss issues of concern with Albertans, and work towards a common definition of best in class. We're committed to being a transparent and responsible regulator, which is why each priority in our plan is backed by performance targets and measurable results. Since it was first established over 75 years ago, Alberta's Energy Regulator has continued to adapt and change with advances in technology, new industry activity, and changing social expectations. Our decades of regulatory stewardship, combined with our new direction, will lead to a new era in energy regulation, one where the Alberta Energy Regulator is synonymous with innovation, excellence, and strong regulatory oversight.
We are often accused of not being proud of the resources that we have and how we develop them, and I think that what we've heard this morning is just one more reason to make us proud of as Albertans and also as Canadians for the stewardship that the Alberta Energy Regulator is showing and will continue to show in the development of our natural resources. As we know, a robust, responsive, effective, and nimble energy regulator is critical to ensuring the industry maintains its social license to operate and is very important for the economic growth and development, not just for this province, but for the country. We look forward to hearing more of your accomplishments at the same time next year and wish you luck in all your achieving all your goals, including the review of those 60,000 applications. Thank you very much for inviting me to be your host MC this morning, and the reception will continue outside the doors. Thanks very much.